Folks, happy Friday and welcome to the Freedom from the Press podcast. My name is Jason Robertson and I'm here with my partner in crime.
Hey, folks, Todd Peterson, thanks for joining us today. And we're still talking about Joe Biden. We will always talk about Joe Biden, apparently. But, folks, it is getting even worse out there. And I know you know, Jason, I got people, audience that has people, they still trust the media. And after we talk about this topic today, the next hour, please share this with your Democrat voting family members and friends. No one should ever trust the media again. Shouldn't have to say that, but here we are again. Stop trusting the media. This one is, I think, the worst hoax ever, Jason.
Oh, my gosh. I got to say, a couple of years ago when Todd and I are like, what do you want to get together and talk about every Friday? What do you want the content to be? And we landed on freedom from the press. We think the press is the enemy of the American people. We think they give disinformation, misinformation. They frame things up. They work with big tech to deplatform and censor voices. And then they, like, when they finally get caught, there's no accountability. And that's why we do the content that we do. That's why we get on here every week. We do podcasts. We write articles on our different American Tribune properties. And that's why we're thrilled to have you guys. Shout out Paul Reese, first in the chat. And I don't know if you know this, Todd, but Paul does splitrockcoffee.com. Have you ever heard of it?
I have. And just side note, I'm putting my coffee mug on this side today, Jason. We had a little mishap where I had this very expensive computer just fizzle out on me because I spilled coffee everywhere. So I'm being very careful today. I didn't stop drinking coffee in front of it, but I had some Split Rock coffee. It was delicious, and I was very sad when it spilled out of my mug onto my laptop. But folks, if you go to splitrockcoffee.com and use promo code TODD10, you can get instant savings, subscribe and save. You can get delicious coffee delivered to your doorstep every single month, right there at the end of the month, the first day of the month, whenever you set it up here. But splitrockcoffee.com, promo code TODD10. Paul, thanks for joining the show today.
Split Rock coffee you can spill all day. The other thing I got to say is Paul's actually doing Cold War Radio with Hutch Bailey Jr. on Friday nights. So that's kind of cool. Give a couple shout outs, Paul Reese. We appreciate it. He was one of our first subscribers to our channel. And before we get started, we got to ask you all a favor. We're going to cover a lot of stuff. We're going to ask you to give us a thumbs up, give us a comment, give us a share. That helps our show get reach. And we're going to give a special request, which is share the content with somebody you might not politically agree with. There are Democrats living in a bubble that still believe the media. And when you see one of these guys wake up, it's encouraging. And I got to say, as conservatives, if you go back pre-Trump, Todd needs a sippy cup. He does. But if you go back in time, pre-Trump, Republicans were just as brain dead as Democrats were. Trump woke us up. It is one of the greatest things he ever did to this nation. And that's why we got to start. We're going to go through 4 or 5 different stories of the media lying or framing things up but people that just sit there watching CNN, like Todd, they live in alternate reality than what we do.
You have to. And I mean, we can't run down all the media hoaxes. We got Francis. Careful on the deportations. Olaf, says Francis. We got Dee Dee in the chat. Thanks, Dee Dee. But Jason, we lived through Russian collusion. We now know that was a complete lie. We had the Fine People hoax, one of the biggest lies of his first administration. You've got the pandemic policies where you could ask anyone in government now, hey, did masking work? Did you base science on your 6 feet of social distancing? I mean, all those lies there. You've got the Joe Biden health cover-up, which we're covering today, in which people are admitting, like, yeah, Joe Biden wasn't all there. These are massive lies, provable lies. You can say, here's what they said at the time, and here are the facts. You can say they clearly misinformed you. And you got these Democrat voters out there, and this is why we encourage you to share the content with your family members and friends. Jason and I are nice guys. We're presenting facts. We're not going after them in mean-spirited ways. We want them to wake up. But how do you listen to the media, see the truth, and then return to the same media and say, this time they're being honest? I can't fathom the worldview of a Democrat at this point. It's hard to accept you've been lied to, hard to accept you're wrong, hard to accept that you were cheerleading forced vaccinations on people and saying, yeah, they shouldn't get treatment in a hospital. And Donald Trump, you voted for him, you support a white supremacist because he said they're fine people on both sides. Like, turns out none of that was real and true. But But man, to watch the light bulb go off, that's what we're here for. We're trying to break people out of the matrix. But I simply can't understand how you still go back to CNN after all the hoaxes we're going to prove today, especially this Joe Biden cover-up.
Yeah, and I got to say, the Joe Biden cover-up, we're going to start, and we're going to go through some older clips, the media just like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. And before we get into the first clips, like, just to frame up what you battle as a truth speaker on the internet. Todd makes videos. We share them on social media, on a Rumble channel, Facebook, all those platforms. We were getting fact-checked on videos. Todd would scrape from C-SPAN. Literally, C-SPAN, like as clean as it gets, as non-conspiratorial as it gets, not edited. The only thing he'd do would be maybe add a little music or put a banner on it or that kind of stuff. We'd share these videos. They would fact check. They'd say, oh, it's a digitally altered image. Meanwhile, anybody actually watching this stuff looks at Joe Biden. And I think many people in the audience have known friends or family members that got old. And the fact of the matter is you reach a certain age and you fall off a cliff mentally. Like, you just aren't all there. That's not being mean. That's just an abject truth. Like, you hit a point, you just no longer cognitively function like you did. And we're pointing this out. I mean, it all started with Joe Biden falling on his bike, and we're like, oh my gosh. And then he kept falling upstairs. He kept tripping on things. He would speak, and he'd be kind of talking about a sentence, and he'd, go through 5 different ideas and then go blah, 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 blah. And then they say, oh, you're making fun of Joe Biden's stutter. And it's like, that's not a stutter. The guy has mentally collapsed. He's a turnip, and he's running the country, and he's really not. It's the auto pen. Which, shout out to President Trump. They're investigating the auto pen. I can't wait for that. But Todd, where do we take this journey first?
Do we start with Jake Tapper with Megyn Kelly and just watch him get railroaded?
Oh, I love that, folks. This is delicious.
And remember, folks, for 4 years, you trusted your own eyes when you saw Joe Biden stumble, trip, fall, confused on the stage. Where do I go? He was slurring his speech all the time. You said, something's not right with this man here. And they convinced you that those were cheap fakes. KJP would be on the stage every day, say those are cheap edits. That's fake news. Joe Biden is the healthiest man ever. His doctor gave him flying colors. You had MSNBC saying this is the best version of Biden ever. They lied to you so much. They didn't even try to nuance it. They just said, he's super healthy. He's great. You're lying. Let's take a listen to Jake Tapper get torched by Megyn Kelly. We got to switch up the overlays here. Do a little of that. Fire.
You covered the Biden presidency aggressively throughout the 4 years, and you didn't cover mental acuity hardly at all. I mean, time and time again, when issues came up, you seemed to be running cover for the president. You didn't seem interested. Well, I mean, we'll start with the Laura Trump issue that you referred. Here it is. This happened in 2020.
Joe Biden, as we all know, has worked to overcome a stutter. How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline. Okay. That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You have no.
Look at that indignation that Jake Tapper shows. I'm going to back it up and just play it. Look at his face when she says, you're dealing with a mental decline.
It makes me uncomfortable.
You have no.
This is so amazing. You're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was.
I think that you were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
And it's very concerning to a lot of people that this could be the leader of the free world. Okay, that is all I'm saying. I genuinely feel sorry for Joe Biden.
I appreciate it. I'm sure it was from a place of concern. We all believe that. Laura Trump, thank you so much.
What a schmarmy jerk.
Do you want to apologize to Laura Trump now?
I've already apologized to her. I called her months ago.
And what did she say?
I mean, I don't want to disclose the contents of a private conversation, but I thought the conversation went well. And she has said this publicly, so I feel fine sharing it. She said that she would never mock anybody's stutter. But I mean, after we did the research for this book and I realized how bad his acuity issues were, I called Laura Trump and I said, you were right.
She was totally right.
Man, he's not as energetic in that clip as he is when he's very comfortable lying to you and shaming Laura Trump. By the way, Jason, do we actually have proof Joe Biden ever had a stutter? Or is that another hoax, too?
That is a hoax. I mean, he kind of had a stutter, but you never saw it in all his years. Yeah. Wanda over on the Facebook, no stutter, just a liar.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do want to tackle this one, Jason, before we dissect the video here. So, wrong thing. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. I've already forgotten about Joe Biden. I guess he and I suffer from the same affliction. Fact check true on his affliction there. We're not talking about Joe Biden because it's Joe Biden. We are focusing, too, on the media scandal, this massive cover-up. I think this is the greatest scandal of Biden's presidency. Yeah, I'm done with Biden. I have gone on record saying, let the cancer run its course, like zero pity or sympathy for me. Sucks for his family. I could care less. But the story is the media scandal, too. And I know Wrong Think was being facetious there, but I had to preface the conversation we're focusing on. This is about how the media lies to you every single time they open their mouths.
And there's some parts of that clip. So, like in the Laura Trump part, just the indignation that Jake Tapper had talking to Laura Trump for dares suggesting that Joe Biden's a turnip when we all knew he was a turnip. We all knew he had mental acuity issues. We all knew he was getting worse and worse and worse. At what point did it cross over? And then when Megyn Kelly says, "Do you want to apologize?" It's funny. It's like when you argue with your wife and she gives you the "I'm sorry you feel that way." It's not like it's an apology. It's not that you're sorry it happened. Or sorry they did it. It's like, "I'm sorry you feel that way." Jake Tapper could have very easily said, unequivocally, "I was wrong. She was right. I was a dick. I apologize." But no. You get this couch like, oh, and I love how Jake Tapper says, like, "Well, I don't want to disclose the context of that conversation." Like, you guys have had zero issues spouting any nonsense that's a rumor or something you heard or something somebody told you. And you really think Laura Trump's going to care if you say, like, "I apologize because she was bad"? Todd, I don't understand. And I don't understand how these people watch guys like Jake Tapper and doesn't just get your blood boiling.
Well, and we've run clips on previous shows. Jake Tapper's out there saying, "Can you believe Donald Trump called neo-Nazis and white supremacists fine people?" But the idea that he had to research this book. So one of two things is true here about Tapper. Either he's just really bad at his job or he's a propagandist, and I lean towards the latter on that one. But he researched the book to then verify that Joe Biden was not all there. So what are you doing, Jake Tapper, on these broadcasts when you're so confident that Joe Biden is not unwell? That he's basically admitting that he is just spewing lies because he hasn't researched it. Like, if he had done research that he did on the book for that segment, he would have come to the same conclusion that he later wrote about. So it's like, you're just making things up by his own admission right here. Yeah, I didn't know one way or the other. I hadn't fact-checked or researched, but I did this segment and made Laura Trump feel bad for the stutter thing. Which one is it, Jake? Are you just bad at your job? Are you lying intentionally, or just you don't care? This is absolutely wild.
Well, and I love the phrase research.
Yeah.
because like, you say research, like, to talk about Paul Reese. Someday we'll have to have Paul Reese on the show. He's traveling with his wife and his dogs.
He's always on the road. Paul, you're always going somewhere.
Yeah, he's always busy. But, like, he has to research a new coffee blend. He travels to Costa Rica, checks out the beans. He goes to look at the factory. He does all this elaborate research. Like when we write a big article, deep dive on our Substack, there's a lot of time and research. Like this morning, I was researching, looking for a country fried steak. It sounds really good. I want one for dinner. So I took 20 minutes on the Google and clicked on some menus. Like, that's the level of research you need to do to determine Joe Biden is a turnip. All you need to do is spend 20 minutes looking at some unedited video of this guy giving a speech or whatnot and go, wow, there are some concerns we have here because this guy has no idea what he's doing. He's falling off a mental cliff. And I love how they frame it up like you got to go do some deep dive secret research and talk to internal sources. And no, like watch C-SPAN for 30 minutes for Christ's sake. Like, what am I missing, Todd?
I have a special place in my heart where I get triggered on the word research because that's my wife's keyword. Love you. But she was like, we need to research this before we do anything, before we commit. And I'm like, by research, do you mean go to menards.com so we can figure out like what we're going to buy? Like, this idea of research, too, in general is getting way overused. It's not that complicated. Yeah, I can see a Joe Biden speech and determine in 5 seconds he is not all there. But they told you for 4 years Joe Biden was healthy, not senile, not impaired, that he never had cancer. I'm sure he just developed stage 4 cancer overnight. He was totally fine and healthy the entire administration. They lied to you so blatantly. Again, at what point? I kept thinking like the COVID era would wake people up like, oh, it turns out the mask thing, the social distance thing, the vaccine thing, all of it, every single thing they did, locking down, none of it was rooted in, I don't know if I can say all this on Facebook.
Yeah, I was going to say we might need to
like
pull
they lied to you, and I thought that would be the
Rona.
moment.
Well, and tune in, folks. For those who are new to our podcast, Rumble is our favorite platform. I got to give a shout out to, we got Kev checking in already. Kev's here early. Thank God for that. We got K-Gun Girl. We got Francis. Paul Reese is still over there chatting. We're building a great community over on Rumble. For those who don't know, Rumble's kind of like YouTube, but they don't censor your speech. When we start talking about the Rona, which we got to get into a little bit of that stuff, we can't talk about it on Facebook, YouTube, some of these platforms. So the last half hour of the show, we go Rumble only, and then we can speak in an uncensored fashion because there's been some release, some findings, different things that have come up that if we mention it, they're going to give our Facebook page a strike or something a strike because they're going to do it. So yeah, for those watching on some of the other platforms, understand we got an extra half hour, 45 minutes of content, and we go over. So yeah, and Todd talked about a big thing, which is the cover up of the media. Here's going to be a funny thing too. Eagle Ed Martin, who was in charge of one of the FBI field offices, and they wouldn't, or DOJ offices, and they wouldn't approve him. He got moved back to the DOJ, and he's assigned to investigate the auto pen. And if you think of it, if you have a mentally incompetent president who is determining policy, they're honing in on the all of the what's the word I'm thinking of? He gave Fauci, his family
Pardons.
Yeah, he gave all the pardons. They all have the same signature. There was 8,000 of them, and it turns out there might be a pay for play that was in play on the pardons with some of the members of the Biden administration. So I am so looking for that. They don't confirm Eagle Ed, but then he goes over and he gets them all for bogus pardons. But we're going to talk about that like who was running the country and how is this not a bigger scandal. But oh my God, there is so much to dig into on this, Todd.
I do have a Benny Johnson clip with Tim Burchess. He references this pay-for-play auto pen scandal. Do you want to hear a quick second of that, Jason?
Yeah, let's go to that. That's pretty fantastic.
Sex trafficking, I mean, that happens because of an open border. 25 million, many hundreds of thousands of children because of Joe Biden. Now we learned that Joe Biden had terminal illness the entire time he was in office. Maybe this was what all of the vacations, 577 days on vacation. Perhaps he was getting cancer treatment. We have had doctors on the program all yesterday saying all of Joe Biden's activities, the weakness, the falling, the fog, the brain fog, that's because of cancer medication. They were hiding this from the American people. What should happen to the people who hid this from us? Are Joe Biden's acts constitutional? What's your measure on Jill Biden?
Well, that'll be decided at the courts, but I'm sure we'll write somebody a strong letter and move on about it. I don't think anybody really brought to justice over this. You got staffers. I would look. Tennessee has had a history of this. We had a governor several governors ago. He's since passed away, but he sold pardons. You can look it up. His name was Ray Blanton. It made national news, and I mean they wrote songs "Pardon Me, Ray," and it was a cash for clemency deal. And that's exactly what I think you're going to find out. You're going to find staffers that were able to take forms, get them, and run them through some sort of bogus legal system, and then they auto pinned them. And there's probably people out on the street that shouldn't be, but somebody got rich off that. And
Wow.
and I think those people I hate to say it, but you'll see something probably horrible happen to some of those people.
I mean, Occam's razor. Do you think that all these pardons and the auto pen, and we know money changes hands, like Blago in Illinois sold a Senate seat or tried to, this character Blanton did cash for clemency. Would it shock anybody that this is what happened with Joe Biden? Let's see. We have a confused man. We have access to this auto pen. We have access to other people in government, and I can enrich myself in politics. Like, this seems like a no-brainer situation. Like, yeah, this absolutely happened.
Well, yeah, and someone will have to fact check me in the comments, but a lot of these pardons were dropped like as they're swearing Trump into office. You know what I mean? Like day of Trump swearing in, it's like, oh, so-and-so just got pardoned. So-and-so just got pardoned. And there was like 8,000 pardons. Now, I don't know about you, but as a man of 50 years old who's not as quick as I used to be, I have no idea how long it would take me to review 8,000 pardons. Like, what are the details of the case? Should he do it? You know, that kind of thing. Can you imagine being Joe Biden with turnip brain? Like how long it would take to explain 8,000 cases? And let's be clear, this is something you're supposed to actually review and check out and dig into. And I do love the thing Birch had said too, because the Republican Party, not MAGA, not Trump-like people, they're going to send a strongly worded memo. And that's why I got hope for Eagle Ed. Eagle Ed, like, don't always agree with everything he does, but he's kind of a pit bull. And I'm hoping he goes after prosecuting and locking up every single dang one of them. I don't know about you, Todd.
I'm with you on that. I got to clarify a remark. Sergio, thanks for watching on Facebook. Thanks for commenting. So Sergio says Biden's presidency was taken away from him and thrown to the curb. I'd like to see who the amateurs were running this country because they certainly F it up. I got to quibble with this one and disagree, Sergio, because what they did to Biden was exactly what they intended, and their destruction of this country was also intended. Nothing happened by accident during Joe Biden's administration with the open borders, the wars overseas, the tyranny that came to us around the time of 2020, 2021. None of this was an accident. They labeled half this country. Let me pop this up here really fast while I'm commenting to Sergio. They labeled half this country domestic terrorists. Here you go, as we are exposing more FBI and DHS rot under the Biden administration. The Biden administration, I'm reading from a headline from Public, labeled opponents of COVID mandates as domestic violent extremists. Jason, when I think of who are actually violent domestic extremists in this country, I'm running down a list here. You know what? It's not people that were concerned about novel therapies. It's not people that were speaking out at school board meetings. It's not Catholics that had a problem with Joe Biden's administration. So to be clear, Sergio, nothing was an accident. These were not amateurs running the country. These were people very good at their job, very corrupt, who knew what they wanted out of Joe Biden when they ran him for president because they saw a man that half this country would be like, that's a grandfather figure. He'll bring dignity to the White House. And the people behind the scenes said, this is a vegetable. I can control and manipulate him the entire time.
Well, and yeah, I think, God, and I love our chats. They're just so funny. Yeah, Vince nailed the head. It was a cabal. Yep. Usual suspects' names, the same ones who served for Bill Clinton and Obama. Absolutely true. And Patricia, $93 billion went out in the last 73 days. So if you think about that, like that's when, you know, you're kind of starting to get in that window where Trump wins. And if you drill it down even further to like from when Trump won to when Joe was inaugurated, they were just flushing cash out as fast as they could. Stacey Abrams, we covered on a podcast. They sent her, I forget the number, like $100 billion for a company that barely existed to buy refrigerators for poor people. The money laundering was just like right there, out in full force. It was ridiculous. And these pardons, I can't even describe how ridiculous this is. And people want to get on Trump for doing pardons or that kind of thing. But like Joe Biden, he set records for how many people he pardoned in his last 90 days. It was insane.
100%. Yeah, Kev, great comment here. I don't think Biden got in and they took over. I think they coalesced behind him and understood the group would make decisions. Yes, 100%. It's not like they took over Joe Biden. They ran Joe Biden for a reason because there was a group from the beginning making the actual decisions. And again, they dupe half this country because people are like, oh, he's just a nice old man. He's a statesman. He's going to bring dignity to the White House. The Democrat voters out there, it's a special breed of people. it's very cute to think like, oh, Joe Biden's in charge and he's a good man.
Right. Well, one other point too that's kind of unrelated to the topic on hand, but just a point I always like to make when it comes up. When people are saying, oh, you need to be careful, we don't want to do that, what if they want to come after us? Understand, in the Biden presidency, the president of the United States stood up and called us domestic violent extremists. He locked us up. They canceled social media. They, like, what more other than lining us up against the wall are they going to do to us? You know, I have zero fear. And it's like President Trump. He's in there and he don't give two Fs. He's like, they missed killing me by this much. What do I care? What they tried to throw me in prison 4 different times at least. They tried to bankrupt my companies. They get all these loon jobs to come after me and try to kill me. Like, what does Donald Trump have to be afraid of? And that's where liberals are running scared, because conservatives are that like, we're going to be over here doing our thing, you know, and you can annoy us and we can kind of whine about it. But when the rubber hits the road, when things get serious, you want the conservatives behind you. It's like, what was that movie where it was William Wallace up in the Braveheart? He was just up like tending his crops and raising his goats, and they showed up on his doorstep, killed his family, and it's like there was hell to pay. And that's why I love Trump. There needs to be hell to pay in this country.
The man who wanted to be left alone. Yeah, and the crazy thing is, we're up here saying, like, finally, someone doesn't give any Fs. Donald Trump doesn't care. Rubio, we got some great Rubio clips. He doesn't care anymore. But, like, that's just the operating system of Democrats. They've never cared. They will always do their relentless communist march. They don't care what Dem voters want or what this country wants or what's good for it. They have never given Fs, and we finally have someone to push back against that model. It's been great. And Jason, I just want to give a shout out to our Facebook comments here. Not going to read all the comments because we are in Facebook, but Kyle, Brian, Darlene, Tracy, Rick. We got Kyle one more time. Folks, these are fantastic Rumble community comments. Check out rumble.com. Go to the American Tribune. It's a little green play button if you're getting the app on your phone here. But you can see we got our Rumble people all commenting, chiming in here. Find us over on Rumble. That's where we do some special podcast time where we can say what we actually want to say. And we're building a neat little community over there. So Timothy, Kyle, Darlene, Tracy, check it out. Go to rumble.com and search out the American Tribune.
Oh, yeah. And Todd, I got to test. I don't know if you've seen this. We did it on the Wayne podcast this week. You can show comments on the stage.
Oh, hey.
So I don't know if they're going to populate on there, but I clicked the button. So there's a little corner in the side where it'll show all the comments. And I got to say, folks, too, just about that free speech, there were some comments about the election, about the shot, like some of that stuff, like we can't dive into on these platforms because they get a little cautious about that. So, there we go. And of course, the first comment is a Facebook spam.
Of course, that's the one I have to delete right away. Block.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. But so where do we go next, Todd? So we all agreed Joe Biden was a turnip. Jake Tapper's acting like, oh, this is a shock. Do we play another old clip or do we move somewhere else?
So do you want to, we'll transition slightly from that. We have Dean Phillips. And I know you're kind of a Dean Phillips fan. I'm going to pop up a tweet that I am not a Dean Phillips fan whatsoever. But if you recall, folks, there was really no primary. Joe Biden was coronated until he wasn't. And then there was a coup and they installed Kamala Harris as a new candidate. But Dean Phillips ran for president as a Democrat. And on the campaign trail, he was saying we need change because Joe Biden is not all there. And no one coalesced around him. They kicked him out. Dean Phillips decided not to even serve anymore, ran for president. He's out of politics altogether. Dean Phillips was one of the few Democrats to actually speak out against the corrupt regime, the DNC regime. But here he is now. It turns out Dean Phillips was right. Who knew when Dean Phillips said Joe Biden's not healthy? But he goes back on CNN with Jake Tapper. Listen to this exchange.
It's courage and honesty. I mean, Thomas Jefferson, I think, wrote, honesty is the first chapter in the book of wisdom. And if we don't reflect on the lack of honesty from the White House all the way down to House leadership to members of Congress, and by the way, this is not unique to the Biden enterprise and the Democratic Party. This is a symptom of a broader disease. But how it starts with honesty, yes. And Jake, the sad truth is, having now been a member of Congress and seen firsthand how this incentive system works, I do understand why this happened. And that's why we have to change it. The why is because if you wish to become a leader, if you aspire to national office, If you get out of line, and now I know why nobody would accept my call or take that charge to enter the primary, because if they had, and it hadn't worked out, their political career was over. So I think this begs the question about how do we create a new incentive system for people who are rewarded for being honest and people of integrity rather than being punished. And that's what we're doing right now. Well, very simple.
Now, Todd, I got to fact check you a little bit when we talk about Dean Phillips. So just to understand, I think part of the solve of the nation is getting normal Democrats back in. Like, I have friends that are normal Democrats that aren't communists, that don't think you give gender transitions to little kids. They might like a little more social welfare than I might like. Like, normal Democrats overthrowing the communist regime that's taken them over is a key component. I also say I got a soft spot for Dean Phillips. For those who don't know, if you've ever been a young poor man and you had to drink cheap liquor, Phillips vodka in the plastic bottle, that is Dean Phillips' family. His adoptive parents started Phillips vodka. And I don't know, raise your hand if you ever had to have some Mad Dog, some Thunderbird, mixed in a little bit of Phillips plastic bottle vodka. And I actually met him because his family is very involved in eye stuff like blindness and that kind of thing, which is ironic because you sell cheap liquor. And so I had met Dean Phillips, and he was like a pretty nice, normal guy. He was one of the few Democrats running. Like, he wasn't afraid. He was a self-made man, a businessman. He went into politics, got elected in Minnesota, and then he was running against Joe Biden in the primary. It was him and Marianne Williamson, who's just nutty as a fruitcake.
I love Marianne.
That were on stage. Yeah. I love Marianne Williams. Like, I wouldn't ever want her in a position of leadership, but I'd love to have a drink with her, And but Dean Phillips is out there saying all the things everybody's saying now, and they ran him out of DC. He didn't even run for re-election. He's like, screw it, I'm going back in the private sector. And I mean, think of how transformational it was with a guy like Trump, who went into office just as a normal guy. I mean, he's a Clinton Democrat policy-wise. Like, he's not some hardcore conservative. And like, had he not stuck it out, we'd be left with Mitt Romney or some awful person. But Dean Phillips just took a knee. He's like, the Democrat Party are a bunch of crazy people. And now he's coming back around because turns out everything he was saying was true. He was right all along. They would have been smart to listen to him.
So this is my quibble, Jason. I'm trying to share. I don't know if it's working here. We are having technical difficulties. I'm going to restart this. This is my problem with the Dean Phillips. Can I get it working? There we go. So here's Dean. This is when he announces he's not campaigning anymore. He says, I'll be clear, if my campaign is not viable after March 5th, I'll wrap it up and endorse the likely nominee, Biden or otherwise. I'll campaign for them as vigorously as I'm campaigning now. I'm not here for games. The goal is to maximize the odds of beating Trump. So Dean Phillips runs himself out of DC by speaking the truth. And yes, it took courage to do that. And I think he carved out a little niche for himself. Like, there are normal Democrats that don't like what they're seeing here. But as soon as he got the chance, he didn't endorse Donald Trump to be like, this is corrupt. Joe Biden's corrupt. Joe Biden has these awful handlers that are ruining this nation. He goes back to the Democrats, and he goes back to Joe Biden, the man he just got done calling out for being senile. That's my biggest problem with Dean Phillips is it seems like it might have been show. He might be like a nice guy, but here's a wealthy, self-made man, or at least he inherited a lot of his wealth from his family. And then he has these Democrat values. He says, I worked my way up. My family worked their way up through a business. And in return, I'm going to go to DC and I'm going to tax the hell out of everyone. I'm going to endorse the man that is bringing tens of millions of people in this country. The wealthy Democrat type, he thinks he's better than you. He thinks he's smarter than you. And he thinks all of his Democrat ideas are going to be good for the country, which could not be further from the truth. I don't know. I like Dean Phillips for his campaign. I like what he did there. But again, as soon as he had the chance, he goes right back to endorsing the same person he was running against because he laid out all those problems. Like, which one is it, Dean?
Well, yeah, and it's interesting too, and that is a fair point with Dean Phillips. Like, his policy, I don't agree with. There are many flaws of Dean Phillips. And if you compare him, like, think of Tulsi Gabbard. Like, everybody remembers 2020 when Tulsi, like, ended Kamala's campaign. Like, she just throttled her. And then Tulsi, though, give her credit, she stood to her values. Now she's working for the Trump administration, and I am just happy as a clam.
See, that would have been a Dean Phillips moment. He could have walked away entirely from the Democrat Party, since he supposedly recognized all the rotten corruption within it, he could have said, I'm endorsing Donald Trump for a change, for America first. And instead, he says all that stuff and then walks it all back and endorses Joe Biden and then Kamala Harris. I don't know. It was super disappointing from Dean. He could have had his moment too. He could have been in the Trump administration. I mean, Trump wants he has an RFK, he has a Tulsi. He just wants politicians. They can differ on like what should the tax rate be, but he wants America first people. Dean seemed to be that, and then Dean sold him out. I don't know who paid off Dean or what he was thinking, but he did the exact same thing he was complaining about.
Yeah, you wonder what happens, especially to the Democrats. Even Bernie, and we don't have the clips, but he's been out running some podcasts, and he's like, yeah, the Democrat establishment's corrupt. And it's like, then why do you hang out with them, vote for them, and do everything you can to fall in line? Like, he could have contested 2016, fought the super delegates, and been the nominee. Bernie, you're a coward. You took a knee. You bailed out. It was ridiculous. So, yeah. So now that we've framed, Valley's in the chat. Now that we've framed up the media lies, they lied about Joe Biden, they're rewriting history. Do we do the South Africa story or the Judge story?
Should we do the Judge really fast? We just have the one video on that.
Yeah, let's do the Judge. So let me frame this up while Todd gets the video ready. So I believe it was Milwaukee. Is that right, Todd?
Wisconsin. Yeah, might have been Milwaukee.
Wisconsin. There was an illegal immigrant that was in a hearing for domestic assault. Let that sink in as you watch this video. The man was here illegally and deported once in 2013. So he was here. He had his due process. They sent him home in 2013. He came back illegally and he was on their radar, and he flagged in the ICE system because he is having a trial for domestic assault. Now, everybody's innocent until proven guilty. But here you have somebody that was here illegally, got sent home, came back anyways. Now they're in court for domestic assault. And I wanted to share this one because I'm going to share a little family story about this. And so at my house, we had family over. Some are liberals. We pray for them. Got a couple conservatives. And there's a new guy there, new boyfriend of sister-in-law. And he's like, yeah, what's up with them electing this judge or arresting this judge? That's kind of crazy. And immediately the liberal jumps in and like, oh my God, it's like the SS squad going in, like, that's what Hitler did. Hitler started arresting judges. This is unbelievable. And I'm like, you really don't have the facts. So I hope the interweb finds a way for this clip to make it to them so they can know what's going on. And I'm like, hey, well, really, this guy was already deported. He was there for domestic assault. ICE was showing up to detain him. They knew the judge probably wouldn't cooperate, so they were there. And then I get interrupted, and they say, oh, no, they were storming in his courtroom, and I shouldn't be storming his courtroom. And I'm like, no, they were just kind of there. And then the judge sneaks him out the back door and, distracts the agent. So, yeah, she was like not following through on a federal agency thing. And then my wife gives me the look, like, don't argue with the liberals, like, don't feed the animals. So I shut up. So I got to do it on today's podcast. We're going to do a little segment on this. Todd, did I cover all the background information?
You sure did. And I'm going to ask a question. I know the answer here, but it's fun to ask. If you had a scenario where it was just domestic violence, domestic assault between two, let's just say white people, white dude assaults the white woman, I think every Democrat would be like, that's awful. Men are pigs. This guy goes to jail. So what is it about escalating that story to then illegal status? And then suddenly it's like, no, you can't touch it. You can't go there. I don't care about the domestic assault. No human being is illegal. Like, their brains just cannot process this as soon as you interject some other like woke religious figure for them. Domestic assault is bad until it's an illegal. And now they're really confused. And I'm going to defend the illegal and I'll defend the violent assault as well, because that's not as important as him being in America. We can't deport people. That's bad. So these Democrats are all sorts of confused, but should we?
And then you're hearing all this stuff like they're snatching people up off the streets. I hope they're snatching an illegal up off the street who is in the country illegally, been deported once. now on trial for domestic assault. That's who I want snatched up. Go home. Go home. Gosh, we play the video.
We can't. We got Kate Jansen in here. Kate Jansen. That was a Minnesota accent. Kate Johnson. Real news. The American Tribune. Okay. I think that means we're doing a good job, or I can't tell if there's like a little like sarcasm involved. Like we have the story wrong. But Kate, let's watch the tape. Let's all decide for ourselves here.
Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan's courtroom. Along the way, he passes plainclothes federal agents who are sitting on a bench. They are there.
Oh, sitting on a bench is a little different than storming. Just to clear that part up in case your new boyfriend's sister-in-law catches this. No storming, just waiting patiently on a bench.
To detain him. After Flores Ruiz walks by, the agents turn to each other and appear to confirm his identity amongst themselves. But a few moments later, Judge Dugan and another judge approach the agents sitting on the bench. A criminal complaint against Dugan later said she was alerted to their presence by a court official. That complaint says during this interaction, Dugan and the agents disagreed over the type of warrant they had to arrest Flores Ruiz. According to the complaint, Dugan ordered the agents to go to the chief judge's office. Video shows her pointing them through a double door. She then turns back to speak with other agents further down the hall and orders them through the doors as well. Shortly after that, with the agents gone from the hallway, Eduardo Flores Ruiz and his attorney exit into the hallway through a different door. As they walk down the hall toward the elevators, they pass another plainclothes federal agent. Neither they nor Judge Dugan seem to have noticed at the time. That agent motions to another to follow Flores Ruiz. Security video shows Flores Ruiz exiting through a basement exit. Upstairs on the 6th floor, the other agents have left the chief judge's office and worked their way downstairs. Flores Ruiz left the building onto 9th Street. Videos of the street shows the agents catching up to him. Flores Ruiz runs across 10th Street while trying to get away, but the agents catch him and arrest him.
So let's see, to the folks that didn't know what's going on, agents, if you've ever been in a courthouse, like agents just sitting in the hall, public place, judge gets, like, they were just going to let the guy walk out, which, by the way, in a courtroom, there is only one or two main doors you enter in unless you're an official of the court. The side door, the judge's chambers, whatever, not used by court recipients. So, and then the judge comes out, distracts the agent, sends him away while I scurry guy out the side door. And then you see the outcome of her actions, where now they're chasing this guy all around the street through traffic to apprehend him. I got to say, good job, ICE. Good job following through. Lock her up. That judge should be locked up. Throw away the key.
Couldn't disagree more. And Jason, I didn't want to go there, but I'm going to. This is exactly what I would expect from a woman who is aiding and abetting illegals. This is the kind of person that would vote Democrat, can't even take care of herself, but is going to lord over society and make far-reaching decisions that affect all of us watching this program here. Like, lady, how about you focus on taking care of your health, yourself, your haircut, before you make decisions that are going to let illegals that are violent stay in this country?
Well, yeah, and just the audacity of that judge. You are a judge. It is not your job nor your role to deal with who apprehends, like what law enforcement does to apprehend. Once they get charged, they end up in your care. Like, this is completely outside of her realm. And it was funny because, like, when the liberals were describing this to me, and I'm like, my God, do they really just not know this? But, like, they were describing, like, these federal agents were, like, storming the freaking courtroom. And there was, I mean, no, like, the agents say, and how do they know he's there? He flagged in the system. They're like, hey, here's an illegal. He's in court for a violent offense. Oh, by the way, we already deported him once. Easy catch and return. Shouldn't be an issue. Shouldn't be defeated. But Democrats are going to die on the vine for that illegal who we already sent home once to stay in the country. And this judge who should be thrown away, like locked up, throw away the key, they're going to defend her till the ends of the earth. It just makes me sick.
Yeah, and I will just reiterate another point I often make on my own show, on some of the video commentary. It is one of two things as a judge. You can either be a Democrat or you can value and uphold the Constitution. I don't even know if there's a middle ground anymore. This woman here is acting against everything written down in law, in the Constitution, what we voted for, although I'm always hesitant to say will of the people because half this country votes Democrat anyways. Like, I don't trust the will of the people. But this woman's doing everything she can to stop the right thing, the moral thing, the legal thing. They just got to go. Yeah, and as our comments are saying, Paul, make an example out of her. Absolutely. Fally says, let the illegals move in with her, which is also a great point. This woman would never let a violent illegal live in her house, but she will make you as society live with many of them in your own communities. It's always the double standard.
Right. And, you know, if we don't, and that's what I am so thrilled that Trump is starting to do, lock her up, throw away the key, give her a perp walk, put her face on every billboard you can, and let the left dig in screaming like, oh no, this woman like got thrown in jail for using her legal authority as a judge to try to impede an apprehension of somebody who was in court, who already been deported once, who's going to be in court for a violent offense. And when you watch the media cover this, you watch the left-wing spin, like these facts are irrefutable. Like the guy had a court record. The guy was already deported. He was there for an unconvicted domestic assault thing, which didn't even matter. He shouldn't have been here, and you sent him home, and he just came back. Unreal.
All right, I'm going to put a pin in this with one question. The next time some Democrat, some deluded, brainwashed Democrat gets outraged that Donald Trump is arresting these Democrat-appointed judges, just ask him if they were outraged when the Biden regime was trying to jail Donald Trump, the leading political opponent at the time for Biden. Were they mad when Donald Trump had a mugshot, was caught up in 4 different court cases with multiple felonies and indictments? Were they mad that the system was targeting him? I doubt it. I really doubt it. But let them try to justify, well, Trump's really a criminal and this woman's doing nothing wrong. Let them answer that question.
Yeah, I got to say that is one of my favorite things where I'm sitting there thinking and I'm going to try to put myself in the Democrat mindset. I'm sitting there watching CNN and MSNBC, and for 3 years, it's Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that, lock him up, crime for this, trial for that, suing him for this, doing for that, doing for that. And now you like take off one hat and put on the other. And now it's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're going after their political opponents. Like, how do you even connect those dots? It's like you literally sat here watching them like go after Trump to the ends of the earth. And now Donald Trump, like, who's going to defend the actions of this judge? And she gets her day in court and all that stuff. But you can just look at the facts just from the video and be like, yeah, this is not going to be shouldn't be a good trial for her. She should be locked up for a long time.
Yeah, sorry, I have more comments. Fally, we have such a great audience here. So Fally adds on, jailing old women who are praying. Yes, this happened under the Biden regime. He arrested people simply praying at abortion centers. And Joe Biden, of course, locked up Trump supporters who stormed a Capitol building one day. Unless a Democrat voter out there was outraged that people were being held without pretrial detainment, having their rights violated, if they were mad that people were arrested for praying at abortion centers, maybe they have a leg to stand on. Like, I have been consistent. I don't like when the regime arrests people. I'm guessing none of them were ever mad about anything Joe Biden did. So spare us all when you're outraged all of a sudden that Donald Trump is arresting somebody.
Right. And like I say, I don't know if you even have an iota of the facts and you look at what this woman did. And even if you just say, if I'm a judge and I know there's an illegal immigrant who has been deported once that is in my courtroom and they should be deported again. They've already had their due process. We already sent them home. How am I not calling ICE saying, hey guys, like this guy's here. We've already sent him home once. Let's send him home again. And honestly, here's what's scary too, Todd, if you want a thought. If Donald Trump doesn't charge her with a crime, we don't even hear about this. And if you think of how many leftist activist judges there are in America, there's probably this happening hundreds of times that we never talk about, we never report on. This one's convenient because it shows clearly what happened. And when you watch the left-wing media and the mainstream media, it's like, it just makes me sick. It was funny. I was talking to Jen and I'm like, sometimes it's so exhausting seeing what people see and believe. Like this case, nobody should defend this woman. Not a single soul should think what she did was right. We can all agree she gets her day in court, but this is awful, awful, awful. And I don't know how anybody can defend it.
Yeah, I saw it. Jason, it always prompts me to think of something. So the idea of due process for illegals too. I saw a great tweet. I think it was from Clay Travis. And he said, if you're a criminal, so he used the case in New Orleans where 10 people got help busting out. It seems like it was an inside job a little bit. So you had 10 criminals escape prison. They get caught. Their due process, because they're already convicted criminals, is to go back to jail. It's not like they get a new hearing again and a new court to be like, oh, are you really going to go back to jail? Like, no, you have a jail sentence to finish up. So they go right back when they're caught. So when it comes to illegals, you've committed a crime. You're here illegally. Your due process is on the next plane ride to your home nation or country of origin. There's no need for a court date for these guys anyways, because you're a caught criminal. And I know you're a criminal because you're in this country. So your due process is simply going home. If that's how it works for these breakouts in New Orleans, that's how it works for these illegals.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And it's like people coming here, like, are you here legally or illegally? Illegally. Have a nice day. And how does everybody get mad that they're sending them home? It's like if you're out at the bar and you got pulled over and you got a DUI and the judge says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, or the police officer says, I'm going to take you home. No, how dare you take me home? And he's like, bro, are you kidding me? Like, they're getting mad. We're sending people back to their home country. It's ridiculous.
Ridiculous, Jason. We got a few Marco Rubio clips that are clean. I think we got to save our folks. There was just an incredible exchange with Carolyn Levitt and some beyond woke reporter denying everything that's happening in South Africa. I think that needs to be our Rumble only, Jason, because we have lots of spicy opinions about the South Africa story that's been amazing this week. Absolutely amazing. Donald Trump did such a good job with their president. Do we want to celebrate Marco Rubio for just a few minutes before we transition over?
Yeah, I think we have to do the Marco Rubio thing, and I'm going to give full context and full credit to Wayne Dupree. I do his podcast during the week, but Wayne, when Trump's building his administration, everybody's excited about J.D. Vance. I'm excited about J.D. Vance. I think J.D. Vance is doing great. And he's right when he put Rubio and he's like, oh, Rubio is going to be the contender for 2028. And I always said Rubio from a policy standpoint might be kind of okay. Not like the best, wouldn't be my first choice. He's kind of a bushy, but like of the best stinky sock we have, that's probably the best one we'd have. I really hope it's J.D. Vance, but he was convinced. He's like, Marco Rubio is going to be the guy. And I'm like, Marco Rubio doesn't have like main character energy. He doesn't have that like charisma that you really need to get. And we've seen it on the Democrat side. Clinton and Obama, two of the most charismatic people you saw. We've seen it with Trump, super charismatic. We've seen the opposite with like Kamala, who's not charismatic. But god dang, Marco Rubio this week, he had a hell of a week.
It's been a hell of a week. And Kev says he enjoyed Cuban Lil Marco. Yeah, Trump's Lil Marco comment. Soaring with Van Hollen. This was absolutely wild here. Remember, we had a Democrat senator fly to El Salvador, allegedly because he denied ever having a drink with him, but sitting down for photos with margaritas with a convicted violent criminal illegal alien. Watch this exchange.
Ask you what well justified.
Oh, wait, this is Tim King. We got to switch over to our other one here.
Case of El Salvador, absolutely. Absolutely. We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear. In the days to come, you're going to see who you went to defend.
Senator,
I'm sorry,
please,
Mr. Chairman.
Secretary
No.
Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated comments like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor. You've had
Secretary
your time.
Rubio should take that testimony to the federal court
Senator,
of the United States because
Well,
he hasn't done it under oath.
Here's another point, okay? There is a division in our government between the federal branch and the judicial branch. No judge in the judicial branch cannot tell me or the president how to conduct foreign policy.
Oh, just delicious.
And their
Hey,
only
Todd,
response is, oh, that's not, he's making unsubstantiated claims, doesn't refute the claims, can't say anything, but he has to pretend to get mad and be like, that's out of bounds. Like, you know what's out of bounds, Senator? Going to El Salvador to visit this criminal alien.
Yeah, I got to give a shout out too, because we've seen across with the stream. On yesterday's show, we had the same thing. So we have these active chats, people engaging with each other. So Mark Brown makes a comment, 3 more years of Donald Trump, and we should have a half decent nation. It's about time, go Trump, over on the Facebook. And then we have, then we had Kev talking about Mark Brown is on fire. that only happens because of the little chat box down there, cross-pollination of the Facebook and the Rumble channel chats. Like, it's like Ghostbusters. You remember when they were doing the thing and don't cross the streams? It's fantastic. And I got to say, Todd mentioned some of the South Africa stuff. Like, yeah, some of y'all on the Facebook should jump over to Rumble when we do. We'll be winding down here. But Marco Rubio, that's main character energy. I'm excited. Do we play that Tim Kaine clip too?
Tim Kaine was pretty good. We captioned this on our Facebook page. He's about to burst a blood vessel. Again, all they can do is get mad and emote because they don't have facts and reality and truth on their side. This is another fantastic exchange from the same hearing.
Yeah, they thought their farms were being burned down and they would be killed. I think that's a pretty good justification for wanting to come. They're afraid for their lives.
And should it be applied in an even-handed way? That's an easy.
No, our foreign policy doesn't require even-handedness. It requires prioritizing the interests of the United States.
The phrase says you are entitled to entrance as a refugee if you demonstrate a well-justified fear of persecution.
No, you're not entitled.
So
you're
can
allowed.
you have a different standard based upon the color of somebody's skin? Would that be acceptable?
Well, I'm not the one arguing that. Apparently, you are, because you don't like the fact that they're white, and that's why they're coming.
I'm just asking you to say that would be unacceptable.
Well, no, I would say that the United States,
a very easy thing.
The United States has a right to pick and choose who they allow into the United States,
even based on the color of somebody's skin.
You're the one that's talking about the color of their skin, not me. These
are
people whose
refusing
farms
to
were being
acknowledge
burned
that
down
it
and they were
should be
killed because of the
even-handed.
color of their skin.
Well,
They had to mute his mic. He was doing so bad. I'm sure that was just a coincidence that everything stopped working for a second. Here you have Tim Kaine, a Democrat, the party that said we can flood the country with as many illegals as humanly possible. And suddenly Trump brings in 50 white South Afrikaners, and these people are melting down over immigration. I wouldn't even scripted this for the Babylon Bee. Like, if they had done a headline when Trump took office, like, champion of open borders, meltdown over 50 white immigrants, like, you'd laugh. You're like, that's funny, but it came true.
Well, and I got to say, take the racial component out of it. Democrats are the biggest racists ever. And I think this is a prime example that they're so upset about these white farmers coming in. But so you have Judeo-Christian farmers that we have reliable information. Very bad things are happening. We'll get into more detail over on the Rumble here after we wind up our Facebook broadcast. And they bring 50 in. I mean, there are 5,000 people streaming across a border in the Joe Biden presidency. 50 white people who they vetted, who are largely farm owners, who are Christian, who wanted to like be part of America. Like, they aren't just refugees, and like they aren't going to be out there going like, hey, we want to make America South Africa. These are people like, hey, you know what? My country's falling apart. America looks like a good deal. Give me my American flag. I'm going to sing the Star Spangled Banner. I'm going to go to church, raise my family, be in a farm. And the Democrats are melting down. And then at the same time, oh, this illegal gangbanger who snuck across the border, who'd been deported multiple times, like, he totally needs to stay in the country. If you don't understand how much they hate you and don't understand how much they want to destabilize this country, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, let's check the boxes of the kind of immigrant Democrats like. Poor, uneducated, dependent on the state, likely to vote Democrat, come in large numbers that will help their boost in apportionment for representation in the Electoral College. And then on the other hand, you have white, Christian, able-bodied, motivated, won't require the welfare state, and might vote for an America First candidate, and they wave the American flag as soon as their plane lands. Like, is it a surprise at this point? Is anyone confused of what Democrats actually want with their immigration plan?
Not to me. But Todd, as we take the next step in the story, we probably a perfect time to wind up our Facebook and YouTube and head over to Rumble Only. We love the Rumble Only section. So for those who don't know, Rumble, it's an app like YouTube. You can either go to rumble.com, go to the App Store, hit Rumble. It's a little green circle. When you get over there, search for The American Tribune. That's where we put all our content. We do video clips of news coverage. We do our podcast. We have The American Tribune Live, where Todd does podcasts a couple days a week. And over there, we got my favorite chat. Like, I just love people over there. And like, we've called a lot of them out today. They're great. But as we get into some of this stuff, we're going to talk about some of the weird twists and turns the South African story's taken, and we just can't talk about it on some of these platforms. So, Todd, what else? You want to wrap us up and take us over there?
I'm chuckling over here. I love our Rumble community. We got Kev over there saying, oh no, bye Facebook. Fally says goodbye to them. Like, what a wholesome group here. We're sad to see Facebook go. That's why we encourage you, like Jason said, find us on Rumble at the American Tribune. We got to say it a lot. We want that to stick in your brain here. Rumble, the American Tribune. But yeah, we got James over there. We got Drew. That would be a great fit in our Rumble community. Ashes to Ashes. I mean, this is a perfect Rumble community comment right there. I won't even say it out loud to our Facebook here, overlords. But folks, we are going to sign off. Appreciate you tuning in. If you're on Facebook, thanks for watching. I don't know if we had any YouTube viewers. We'll have to check that later here, but we're going to say goodbye to YouTube as well. But we're back in 60 seconds. We are still live on Rumble. So again, if you're on Facebook, you can still catch the program. Head over to rumble.com, search out the American Tribune, get the app. It's a little green button, like Jason said. We're back in 60 seconds as we dissect more South Africa nonsense. And we can't say these things over on Facebook. So we're back in 60, folks.